Uh, Hi everyone who has joined us. I am Tirthu Mahmood. I work here at the British Council um, as the Business Development Manager, and I also look after international education services. So in today's session, you will find useful information regarding Tier 4 applications this year and the graduate immigration route. Feel free to post your questions in the comment section below, and we will try and answer them towards the end of the session. Uh, we won't be able to take specific queries, but we will try and answer as many common questions about visas and immigration rules as we can today. After the live session, we will post some useful links like gov.uk, NHS, Study UK website, etc. Do refer to those for updates and information. To conduct today's session, today I have here with me my UKVI colleague Harry. So over to you, Harry.
Thank you, Tirthu. Good to speak to people again. I've visited Bangladesh a couple of times. Obviously, no one can visit anywhere at the moment for work, but I know how much interest there is in UK education, so it's always good to do these events with our partners, such as British Council. I'm going to share my screen now, speak for about 10 minutes on the presentation, and then we'll take questions. So do put in questions whilst I'm speaking so we can make the session interactive. So 1 second, I'll just share the screen. Just confirm that's viewable, Tirthu?
Yes, that's viewable, Harry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So this is just a presentation that will give you an overview of our standard student guidance, coronavirus related policy, and the graduate route. Okay, so the first thing to confirm, which is of course very obvious but very important, is that Dhaka and Sylhet are open to receive visa applications, including student visa applications, and have been for almost 2 months. So it is possible to apply for student visas, and we are taking applications. There are fewer appointments. That's because we are complying with social distancing requirements, so there are fewer appointments available. But we are opening more every day, and we expect more to be open in the next few weeks as well. So there may be more demand on appointments, but you should be confident that there will be appointments soon. And it's important to know that you must have an appointment to visit the visa application centre. You can't just turn up and pay a fee and walk in like was possible before Corona in some places. You have to have the appointment because we want to manage our centres safely. Equally, if you need passport collection, you can opt for courier service to post the passport back. But if you want to collect your passport after the decision, you should check with the visa application centre before you visit as well. And currently, we aren't running any priority visa services for Dhaka. Those are the paid services which provide faster decisions. That's because the delivery times between our centres are still taking a bit too long to offer faster services. So we're just offering the 5 working day service. Sorry, we're not offering the 5 working day service. We're offering 15 working days or 3 weeks. Everyone has to expect to wait 15 working days from the point of their application centre appointment at Dhaka or Sylhet. There's 2 points here. One is that all new student visa applications this year until the end of 2020, we will issue the visa vignette, that's the stamp in your passport, for 90 days. So that's 3 times as long as before Corona. The visa vignette, the visa stamp, is really only like an entry pass to the UK. Once you get to the UK, you collect your biometric residence permit, and that's your long-term document for the UK. But the 30-day window to enter the UK is what is in your passport. Because of Corona, for example, due to less reliable flights or more difficulty in travelling, we tripled that amount of time. So you should only apply for your visa when you're confident you can travel. But thanks to UKVI, you now have 3 times as long to travel. So that's one important thing to note. You have more flexibility thanks to UKVI. However, if you either have already applied for a visa, say before the lockdown, or if you cannot travel during that 90-day period, we are reissuing expired visa vignettes until the end of 2020. And the process is on the slide. You either go to the VAC, DACA or SILHET, where you originally applied and submit your passport, or you can log on to the UKVI website and do the same there. But generally, as I say, if you're a new applicant, you shouldn't need that. You should only apply for your visa as normal, but you should only apply if you are confident you can travel. And if you can't travel, then you don't need to apply straight away. Most universities this year are offering distance or blended learning. That's at least for the first term, and that's where they use digital tools to deliver part of the academics. And UKVI have changed the immigration rules to allow this for the whole academic year. So from this month until the term finishes in May, June, July next year. So you're entitled to do this if coronavirus is stopping you from doing that, and you should only travel to the UK when your circumstances allow. Likewise, we don't need you to apply for your visa for the start of your course. You can apply for your Tier 4 visa when you're actually due to travel to the UK rather than the start of your studies online. So, for example, if you're planning to travel in September as normal, but you couldn't travel straight away, you could start your studies in September, and then say in November, when it became possible to travel, you'd apply for your visa at that point. So there's more flexibility about when you apply as well. As I said, the visa vignette will be 90 days, so a longer window to travel. And the graduate route, which my next slide will talk about, will also be eligible for you as long as you're in the UK by the 6th of April 2021. In terms of the graduate route, this is the new post-study work route, which will entitle undergraduate or master's students to 2 years, a single 2-year non-extendable leave for undergraduates and masters, and 3 years for students on a PhD. You can work or look for work at any skill level, and you don't need sponsorship from your employer or a minimum salary. You can, during that time, settlement rights won't be accrued. Sorry, just a second. There will be a fee for graduate route.
Don't worry, we have a question from a viewer.
Yeah, please
so
do.
The question is, what is the topic of the live, and when will students be able to apply for Tier 4 visas? So I think you have answered the question already, but could you just mention the dates again for the viewer?
The topic of the live is the general introduction to UK student visas at the moment. When can people apply for visas? They've been able to apply for visas since the past 2 months. You can apply for your student visa now in DACA or SILHET. So there is you can do it now, and you've been able to do it for the last 2 months. In terms of the graduate route, you'll be able to apply for the graduate route inside the UK only. So you can't apply for the graduate route visa from DACA or SILHET. That's only from when you're in the UK with a Tier 4 visa. But in return, you get 2 or 3 years to work or look for work at any skill level. You don't need sponsorship. You don't need to be paid a minimum salary. You just have the freedom to work. But as I say, it's a separate application. There will be a fee for the graduate route, and you will also need to pay the immigration health surcharge for the graduate route, like you do for the Tier 4 visa, but you'll pay that at the end of your course. So, and we'll set out the fee in due course. Just in terms of the Tier 4 general application, this is the guidance for student visas in general. You need to have a place in the course, speak and understand English and write it, have the finances to cover your course and meet other eligibility requirements, for example, a TB test if you're from Bangladesh and other countries. The final bullet point, please ignore that. That was from a different presentation. The earliest point you can apply for your visa is 3 months before your course, and 3 weeks. You should apply at least 3 to 4 weeks before you start. As I say, you can't currently pay for priority visa services at the moment because of coronavirus. So everyone should expect to apply 1 month before they intend to travel to the UK. In terms of supporting documents, this is a common list of what you might need. A valid passport, of course, it needs to be valid for your time to enter the UK and some months after. You need the confirmation of acceptance of studies. That's a digital certificate that the university will give you, and that has a reference number, the CAS reference, which will basically prove that you have a place in a UK university. You need the CAS email, the digital certificate, will provide evidence of the qualifications, academic qualifications you need, and the English language qualifications. and UKVI receive those documents, require those documents as well. So to be clear, UKVI do not need any more documents for your English language or your qualifications other than those that the university asks for. So if your university asks for an undergraduate degree certificate, UKVI require this. If the university asks for an IELTS grade 6.5, UKVI require this. There's no more requirement for UKVI. That's an important point. Finances are also required. The funds should be in the student's account or the parent or legal guardian's account. If it's the parents, you need a birth certificate to prove the relationship. If you're going on certain courses, for example, physics, aerospace engineering, you may need an academic technology approval scheme certificate. Your university will tell you if you require this, and if you do, you must get it. And you should focus on this first. You have to have the ATAS certificate before you apply if you're on a course which requires it. Most courses don't, but if you do, you must get this. And then, as I say, you need a TB test certificate, and the TB test certificate must be no more than 6 months old when you apply for your visa. So if it's older than 6 months, you will need a new TB test certificate. In terms of the border, you will need to quarantine at the moment. All travellers from Bangladesh must quarantine. And you also have to provide your contact details and journey details. That's what we call a contact tracing form. So that basically says where you're coming from, where you're going, and how to get in touch with you. You need to self-isolate in the place you're staying for the first 14 days. We do not say where you need to isolate, just that you must isolate. So you can isolate with relatives or at university accommodation. If you want, it's just that you must stay in one place for 14 days. Many universities are looking to support students, and if you have specific questions about where to stay at, say, a certain university, you should speak to your university representative. This is just a final note. If you're traveling in January or after, there will be some reforms to the student route, and it will be called the student route instead of the Tier 4 student visa. So if you're going in September, October, November, or December, if you're traveling to the UK in those months, it will be Tier 4 student, like it has been in previous years. And from January, it will be called the student route. So there will be name change, and there'll be a few differences in our rules, but overall, it will broadly be the same. You have to show finances, English language, academic documents, much the same. But just note that if you're traveling in January or after, the name and some of the other terms will be different. So that's slightly further ahead. But if you're going right now, it's a Tier 4 visa. So that's all I had for the my presentation. We can take questions for the remainder of the session.
Okay, so we have a question from Miftahur Rahman. He's asking, is there any possibility to reopen the fast-track visa application process this year for students?
Right now, no. We are trying to bring it back for some locations globally, and we will bring it back as soon as possible for Dhaka. But basically, it's not really in UKVI's ability. We use like the international transport system to transport the visas to the place. And if there are less flights, less regular places to get the visa into a place, it means it takes longer to get there. So as everyone knows, the ability to travel globally is much more difficult now. And that's the same for transporting things like visa vignettes. So for that reason, it's not how long UKVI take to make a decision, it's how quickly we can transport it. And until that situation becomes easier, we can't guarantee that we can have priority visa back. So I can't give you any date at all for that. We'll just bring it back as soon as possible. But otherwise, you should expect to be waiting 15 working days for all applications. At most, we'll try and do it sooner, but everyone should expect 15 working days for now.
Okay, thank you, Harry. We have a question from Monira Hussain. So you mentioned TB testing before the application. So she's asking that how long before going to the UK does the test have to be conducted, and how long is it considered valid? Is it more difficult in general for TB or hepatitis positive applicants to get a visa for the UK?
Okay, so there's two questions there. So the first bit, TB testing, the test result has to be at most 6 months old by the time you submit the document. So the visa officer will look at the date of the test, and it has to be, of course, from a UKVI approved TB centre, of which there are a couple in Bangladesh. There's a list on gov.uk. Maybe we could post that after the chat. But it has to be from specific UKVI approved centres, and it has to be maximum 6 months old. If it's older than 6 months, you have to get a new one. But equally, if you're a Bangladeshi student and you've lived in, for example, Dubai or America, countries which do not require a TB test, then you wouldn't need to submit one. What matters is where you currently are rather than your nationality. So if you've been for the most people, I assume they are in Bangladesh. If you've been in Bangladesh for more than 6 months and are planning to go for a full course in the UK, then you should be providing a TB test, and that TB test has to be no more than 6 months old. If it's older, you need a new one. And then finally, are TB test or hepatitis positive applicants do they find it harder to get the visa? Well, so the obviously the TB test is there to prove that you don't have tuberculosis. For the TB test, I would generally say we would expect someone to have a test showing that they do not currently have TB to get the UK visa. And yeah, so in the short term, it may be more difficult, but if at a later date, if you are able to become cured of the condition, then it wouldn't be held against you for long term. But it's just when you're traveling to the UK, you should be able to prove that a clean bill of health.
Right. Thank you, Harry. Question from Sharmin Nilia. Are all visa centers open in Bangladesh?
Yes. Dhaka and Sylhet are our two VACs in Bangladesh, or the two visa application centres, and they are both open. All visa application centres globally have some form of restrictions on how much they're operating. To state the obvious, it's not the same as before COVID. There are fewer people allowed in the centre each time, for example, so there are going to be fewer appointments. So they are open. They may have different hours as to before COVID. They may change their hours depending on what the guidelines, and these guidelines are both UKVI guidelines and Government of Bangladesh guidelines about health, keeping health in local businesses. So these restrictions will just continue to be a part of all our lives, unfortunately, for the foreseeable future. So they are definitely open. We appreciate there's pressure on appointments, but we're opening appointments up, and you should check the latest before you apply. So, for example, check that the centres are open on days that you can visit, or check that, if you're planning to go on a Thursday, for example, that it's open on that day. So that's why we always say check before you go, but both centres are open. And then, in fact, you're also able to apply, and we've changed the rules as well to say you can apply in any country if you can't apply locally. So there are options, but yeah, we always encourage people to check VFS's website first.
So she has a follow-up question. I think you've partly answered that already. So what are the COVID-19 related precautions I need to take, I need to ensure before and after applying for the visa?
So it's immediate. I mean, in some ways, you don't need a COVID test to apply for a UK visa. So to be clear for that, you don't need to get a COVID test before you apply for your visa. You don't need a COVID test before you travel to the UK. That's not something we're doing. What everyone needs to do, regardless of whether you've had a COVID test recently, is isolate when you get there in one location. So as I say, you could choose to stay in a hotel, you could choose to stay with a cousin, you could choose to stay in a rented house, you could choose to stay in a university accommodation. Wherever it is you're staying, you have to stay there. So you can choose any type of accommodation, but you have to stay in that location. And that's the main condition. You also have to fill out the contact tracing form. So that's a digital form, and it will say where you're coming from, your contact details, and where you're going. And that means if you're on a flight and someone tests COVID-19 positive, that means the UK National Health Service can get in touch with you. So it's mainly about providing your details when you arrive in the UK and isolating for 2 weeks after you arrive. Separately, and you don't need a COVID test to come to the UK. However, if you need a COVID test when in the UK, it is there and it's free and it's available for students. And likewise, treatment, if someone needed treatment for COVID, would also be free. So the treatment is available, but you don't need a test to arrive in the UK.
Okay, thank you, Harry. So next question is from Monir Hussain. He's asking regarding the TB test, is there any advised center from where we can do the test? So I think Harry has answered that already, and like Harry mentioned, we will post the links after the session on our Facebook page. The next question we have is
I have the TB test in front of me. There's the Migration Health Assessment Clinic in Gulshan in Dhaka, and there's the Migration Health Assessment Clinic in South Dorgo Gate in Sylhet. So there's two, and I think they're relatively close to the visa application centres in both Dhaka and Sylhet.
So the next question we have is, I didn't apply for September session due to coronavirus. Now can I apply for Jan 2021 session this September or October?
Yeah, you can apply from October. You can apply 3 months in advance currently. So for example, if your new course or you're going for your course on, say, January the 15th, that's when you're intending to travel to the UK, you could apply for your visa from any time after the October the 15th. So you can't apply right now, but if you apply, say, in mid to late October in that scenario, you would be able to, get your visa hopefully a long time before you travel. As I say, if you're going in January, your visa will not be called Tier 4, it will be called the student route. But ultimately, there'll be some changes in terms and names, but broadly it's the same. You still need to show the language ability, the CAS, the academic documents, the TB test centre certificate, finances. It's broadly the same, but there'll be difference in terms. So don't worry if you see, I thought I was going for Tier 4, but now it says student route. Don't worry about that. It's a wider reform, but actually you have to do basically the same thing. So yeah, apply from October and apply for the student route visa, and best of luck.
Thank you, Harry. Question from Humayun Rashid. Does the UKVI require you to book your accommodation in advance before applying for the visa?
I'll give a slightly specific answer, I suppose, is that it's not something that's considered for the visa application. It's not a required thing, but there is an option to put it on the form. And of course, when you get to the UK, you should have somewhere to self-isolate. So it's not necessarily like you need to put somewhere on your visa application and that's where you're going to live for the next 3 years on an undergraduate course. It's not like that, but you're expected, when you arrive at the UK border, you're expected to be going somewhere for 2 weeks, to stay in that single, if you have a flat, you stay inside the flat for the 100% of the time for that 2 weeks. So it's not necessarily a visa consideration, but given the health situation globally at the moment, there is a fairly strong expectation that you have somewhere to live for at least the first bit of your stay, because you need to self-isolate for everyone's health. So yeah, so that's the firmest I can say. We can't say it's a fundamental UK visas requirement, but there is an expectation that you have somewhere to stay at the moment.
Thank you, Harry. Next question we have is from Miftahur Rahman. So he's asking, excuse me, how much time does it require for the UKVI to issue a student visa once the interview is done?
3 weeks. So it may take a bit long. It may take a bit less than that, or it may take a little bit more than that. I believe last year, 97% of Bangladeshi applicants were assessed within 3 weeks. So most people are. Of course, as I said, there are challenges in running a global operation, like any business, like UKVI. There may be small delays as we cope with these challenges, but overall, people from Bangladesh are already applying for student visas and across the rest of the world, and we are working, we are getting these applications back, but in some situations it may be slightly difficult. So you should expect 3 weeks, hope potentially for a little quicker, and it may take a little longer in certain cases, but we'll work at getting as many of them back as possible as we can. But for now, as I say, we can't offer paid expedited services for 1 week, for example. So yeah, 3 weeks. So for example, if you had your appointment tomorrow, you'd expect it by about the 29th of September. So you apply on the 8th, you'd expect it back by about the 29th of September, for example, and that's how it works.
Got it. Thank you, Harry. The next question we have is from Sohail Rana. He's asking, how can I apply as a family?
Okay, so a general is what we call dependents. So some tier 4 students can take dependents. That's only if they are studying at postgraduate level or above. So for example, for a master's or a PhD, you can't take dependents if you're studying for a bachelor's course, undergraduate course. And what happens then is that you apply for the visa, and then there's a separate tier 4 dependent visa, and either spouses, so husbands or wives, or children, either natural or adopted children, can apply for a dependent visa. For example, nieces, cousins, elderly parents can't apply for dependent visas. That's not possible. You can apply at the same time or after as the main applicant, and you have to show that the main applicant is a genuine student. The tier 4 student has to show that, and then separately you have to show money for the living costs of the dependent, which it depends, but I'd say. So for a main student, you have to show the first year of tuition fees plus between £9,000 and £11,000 if you're 9,000 outside London, 11,000 inside London, plus about £8,000 or so for an adult dependent and about £7,000 for a child dependent. So you have to do the sums yourself. So for example, if you're a student going for a course which costs £10,000 for the tuition fees, and you're outside London, you'd say £10,000 for tuition fees, £9,000 for students' living costs, £8,000 for husband or wife's living costs, and £6,000 for child's living costs. You have to do a sum like that. That would work out as about £31,000, and it would be different for any person. But you have to add up those different numbers depending on how many dependents are going, and then you say, okay, that's how much I have to show. You show that amount either in GBP or equivalent amount in taka, and that's what the visa officer will assess. Do they have that money for this amount of people? So that's the main thing. You have to show that the student themselves is genuine and looking to study, and you show the dependents are married or they are the child of that student, and then you have to show finances to support them.
Right. Thank you, Harry. We have a question from Arshia. She's asking, can you tell me more about the graduate route? Can I look for work at any skill level?
Yeah, sure. Yes, you can look for work at any skill level. The graduate route's not yet open yet, but any students who are going this year for a master's or above, who are completing their course next summer or after, will be eligible, and you can work or look for work at any level. So, for example, you could go and work in a bank or in a major UK business, or you could work in a charity, or you could work in a voluntary organisation, or you could work in a coffee shop to pay off loans whilst also interning in a business. Lots of students do that. You have the freedom to choose. You can do this sort of mix of circumstances. You don't need sponsorship, so you can switch between jobs, or you can work 2 jobs, as I said. You just have to stay within UK labour law. For example, there is a minimum wage in the UK. You don't need to show that you have a minimum salary. It's just obviously you have to obey UK labour law, just like any UK citizen would. And you don't need the sponsorship, as I say. So the employer doesn't have to tell you. They don't have to pay for you to work for them. They don't have to pay for a sponsorship license to support you. So it's easier for an employer to hire you as a graduate route visa holder. You'd apply from inside the UK, and it's a separate visa, so it's not part of the Tier 4 visa. You go to the UK, complete your course on the Tier 4 visa, and then the final part of your Tier 4 visa, you apply for the graduate route, and then you can, as I say, look for work in a mixed roles for 2 years, or 3 years if you're a PhD. If you want to stay in the UK after that, you have to switch to something like a skilled work route, and that counts towards settlement, for example. But that's like a longer term option. So yeah, so it's very much an improvement, I think, from a student's point of view. They have a lot more freedom to work and earn money and all of that as compared to last year or previous years.
Okay, thank you, Harry. The next question is from Shaheen Rahman. I have completed my graduation in 2016. Recently scored band 6 in UKVI IELTS. Does it make me eligible to apply for the graduation route, or does it depend on the academic institution?
If someone, it's not necessarily about the IELTS, but I mean, it's like if someone completed their course in 2016, they wouldn't be in the UK. You have to be in the UK with a valid Tier 4 visa to apply for the graduate route. So I'm afraid, like, if you had a visa from 4 years ago, you're not currently in the UK and you don't have a valid Tier 4 visa. So if someone chose to go to the UK with a new course and a new Tier 4 visa, that might be possible. But if you graduated a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, and you're currently in Bangladesh, that wouldn't be possible. So you have to be in the UK with a valid Tier 4 student visa from next summer or after. Some people who have been to the UK, say 4 years ago, well, they were there where the graduate route didn't exist, so they can't bring it forward. It's for people who have a valid Tier 4 visa from next year or after.
Right. Thank you, Harry. Next, we have another question from Monir Hussain. He is asking, can you tell me which are the important points for statement of purpose? So we will be doing a separate session next week on statement of purpose. So keep an eye on our Facebook page for that. Right. So the next question is from Shirajul Islam. He's asking, does the university share precast interview information with UKVI? Can I change my accommodation address that I mentioned in my precast interview?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the details of that case. When you apply for your visa, you can enter the accommodation address at that point. When the UK visa officer looks at that sort of information, they get that from the visa application primarily. What's important for the CAS is that you have the reference number, and then you have the academic documents and language documents that the CAS requires you to provide. So I'd say enter the right accommodation address on your visa application form, and make sure you supply everything else in your visa application primarily. I'm not aware of this issue, and it's not generally something that UKVI ask for from the universities.
Right. Thank you, Harry. The next question is from Vicky Kumar Shah. He's asking if the students have if a student has a 2-month-old bank loan letter, can the student apply with that old loan letter for Tier 4 student visa?
So for loan letters, we don't necessarily specify a time that they have to be valid. For funds in an account, the amount has to be no older than has to be in the account for at least 28 days and not older than 31 days. So I'm not aware. The main thing for loans is that it has to be a fully approved loan from an approved financial institution that shows that you actually have the cash ready in your account. I couldn't say more on that individual situation without any context, but generally, if the loan is fully approved, the course of study, that's the main thing UKVI look for.
Right. Thank you, Harry. This is going to be our last question that we're going to take. This is from Qazi Zawad. He's asking, Chevening scholarship holders haven't received their visa yet. It's been 3 weeks since application. So their classes are going to start in a few weeks. Is COVID-19 delaying visa time now?
So we review if there's any delays, and we will speak to the Chevening team potentially in this instance. However, there's not major delays. As I say, the issue, it's not so much that UKVI have the visa application for however long, and then it takes us a long time to get back. It's the delivery time getting back to Dhaka from our global offices in UK. So we're not aware of any issues. As I say, some students may experience short-term delays by a couple of days, and without knowing how long, when you applied and all of that, we can't say for certain. But we're not aware of any significant issue. You should still expect for broadly 3 weeks. It may take a little longer, but there's no major issue that I'm aware of. And generally, we are still keeping to that 15 working day time frame. So yeah, we keep an eye on this stuff, but there's not like a major issue that to be aware of. But everyone has to be a bit more flexible or just prepared for slight challenges due to COVID-19. Because, for example, just like a flight may be cancelled for a student looking to travel to the UK, it may be cancelled for us to deliver something to Dhaka, for example. So there's lots of unexpected challenges in the current operating environment, and that's why we've done stuff like allow students to study online or allow flexibility about arriving in the UK. Because of the unpredictability of the nature. But yeah, we'll keep it under review, see if there's any issue, but I'm not aware of any issue. It's just there may be short delays depending on how easy it is to deliver stuff. But I hope we'll be able to resolve that soon.
Sorry, my thank you so much, Harry. It was a very useful session for our viewers, and thank you for joining us today. And with that, is there anything you would like to say before you end the session?
Only the best of luck. We know it's an unusual time to go to study, so that's why we've taken some of those measures that we've said. Generally, we want people to be able to feel they can go to the UK as long as they observe the quarantine requirements and all that. And our visa operation centre is running. But if for whatever reason it's difficult, we've built flexibility into the system as well. So it's difficult. I know it's a challenging year to travel, but we've safeguarded the routes. And if you're going on an eligible undergraduate or postgraduate course, you'll be able to apply for the graduate route next year. So there's still serious opportunity in the UK, the quality of education, the opportunity for post-study work. But equally, in the short term, everyone needs to be flexible around some of the challenges that coronavirus face. And work together in the knowledge, to keep each other safe and to keep running our services. It's a team effort. So we thank people for their patience, and I wish them the best of luck for their student application and traveling to the UK.
All right, thank you so much, Harry. And before we end the session, this is to our viewers that if you have any further questions, keep posting them, and our team will get back to you. And keep an eye on our Facebook page for similar sessions in the future. And it was very nice talking to you all. All right, bye, Harry.
Thank you.